Hi, I'm Mike Messier. Welcome to Messier Peace Theater as we build towards the production of a short film titled That Night. I'm very happy to have a good friend of mine, our third guest on this series, Bradley Rhodes.
Hey, Mike.
And we'll be playing, you'll be playing Frank, and I'm excited to work with you again.
I am too.
And we just worked together last November of 2018 in New Haven, Connecticut. Our buddy, Robert John Kennelly, suggested you and one other guy, and I said, screw the other guy. I don't even want to hear his name. I said, cast Brad, because you get to that point as a writer, director, producer, where you know people that you can trust, and it's not to shut out anybody, but sometimes you just don't have time to take any chances. And I knew with Brad, we're going to have a fun time here. He's going to do the work. Our cinematographer, editor buddy, Tim Labonte, always wants to work with you. And I thought, this is going to be great. So we shot this thing in New Haven, Connecticut. So you're the guy. Tell me your version of that event type of thing.
This was a dream job for me. Bob and I have been friends forever. And we have an understanding. Anytime he drops my name or makes a referral, I give him $200. So Bob was happy, you were happy, and I was thrilled to pieces.
Yeah.
But Bob and I go way back into acting classes 7 years ago, and tons of improv together. So I feel like he's a brother in a way, because we kind of know what each other's thinking.
Was that at the Actors Gym?
Yes.
With
Reno Venturi.
What a guy that is.
In Hamden.
Yeah, he's great. Reno's got it going on. He's got a lifetime of experience, and he's a cool dude.
He is.
Yeah.
And Bob and I learned a ton with him, and we both kind of started out with all of this pretty rusty.
Right.
I'm not saying we're necessarily A-list actors now, but we are 10 times better than what you first saw when we walked in the door.
It's about putting the work in.
It was. It really isn't. And while we talk about that, Bob loves rehearsing as much as I do.
Right.
So for this last film that we did, shot entirely in a men's room.
Yes.
Bob and I rehearsed that together no fewer than, 10 or 12 times.
Yes.
But our rehearsals weren't just picking little select scenes. We did a full run, back to back, front to back. Each time we worked on it, and if we'd find some snags here and there, we'd polish them up. But the rehearsal was always the whole thing.
Right.
And so by the time we got ready to shoot, it felt like the time was just flying.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what a fun time.
Well, I've got a little bit of a surprise for you, Brad, and just to give the studio and the audience the heads up, we're going to go ahead and show So You're the Guy, because I want this piece to reach the biggest possible audience. We are sitting to festivals.
That's great.
But on the hush-hush, the real idea with this piece is as a calling card for you, for Robert, John Kennelly, Bob, myself, Tim Labonte as a cinematographer. That was pretty much the whole cast and crew. So I do want to share that short, because I really want people to see it.
That would be wonderful.
Yeah, so let's check that out. So right here on Messier Peace Theater, we're going to take a look at my prior collaboration with Bradley Rhodes and Robert John Kennelly, our buddy Tim Labonte, cinematographer and editor, and Tony Caramadre on the score, the soundtrack. Let's check out So You're the Guy right here on Messier Peace Theater.
it going?
You okay there, Chief? Chief? Who you calling a chief?
You champ?
Champ? I'm a champ?
Sure, you're a chief and a champ. So what's the deal with the hands?
The hands?
The hands.
Oh, why did you have to remind me? Now I gotta do it all over again.
Come on. No, you don't, pal. This is an OCD thing, isn't it? Buddy of mine had that for years and it crippled his whole life. I'm not about to let that happen to somebody else.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Just one more wash.
Look, you gotta calm down. You gotta beat this.
I got this beat. Just not now.
No.
Yes.
You're stronger than this.
I know. It only comes in when I'm nervous. And today, I'm nervous. This is my wedding day, and I gotta look good.
Oh, it's not just your wedding day. It's Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, and the Celtics are actually in it.
You're right. Someday to have a wedding. I know.
You must be a Lakers fan.
No, I like the Celtics too.
Yeah, like who?
Bird, he's my favorite. I met him once. Nice guy.
Yeah?
Real nice. I made pancakes for him once.
Really?
Yes, really, and get this. Bird loves the Dutch football team.
Oh, you mean football like the Patriots?
No. Real football like soccer.
Oh.
Oh, and Larry is a big fan of football. And he happened to be traveling in Europe that weekend, and I happened to have acquired some extra tickets to a friendly.
What the hell is a friendly?
A friendly is a soccer game that doesn't count.
Then why play it?
Well, I think the bar's gonna play the game. The basketball game during the dancing. Hey, I hate to miss a good game too because of a silly little marriage ceremony. Trust me, I wouldn't have personally planned it this way. I assure you. My so-called bride wanted a spring wedding, and this wonderful venue was available today, while the girls happened to have the same week off from school.
Oh, that's
And
okay. That's okay. I'll tape it. Special machine I have at home on my TV lets me tape it and watch it when I get back. But the key is, I can't find out who wins until I get home to see it on my own time. So, no spoiler alerts. Now, knowing all the intel I've gathered, I'll have to avoid the bar, which will make the day harder, as if it isn't hard enough.
Just because you're missing the big game?
Nah.
Just because you don't like weddings?
Because my ex is getting married.
Your ex is getting married. To me?
Bobby Stallion.
Paulie Smith? A
Nice
pleasure
to
to
meet
meet you.
Now save it. So, you're the guy who's marrying my ex.
Or I could say, you're the guy who married my lady before I did.
Well, I suppose you could say that. But if you wanted to be nice, you could say, I warmed her up for you.
Yes. I could say that.
You could say, I broke her in for you.
Yeah, well,
You could say, I taught her a few things.
what did you teach her?
You'll find out.
Hey, I don't know if I like that.
You'll like it. You'll like it. So why are you marrying the old gal anyway?
Oh, She's not that old.
No, she's not. Got a lot of years left, I suppose. Past the point of having any more kids. Have you met my daughters?
Shannon and Shelby? Of course. They're great girls.
Well, thank you.
So, then you're their father?
Of course I am. They don't talk about me.
Not too much. Not often. Not at all.
Sorry to hear that. Any photos?
Not that well, wait. Yes. I did see a photo of you.
Did?
They took it down.
Oh.
They didn't want to hurt my feelings, I think.
Well, I raised them to be like that. You know, sensitive and crap.
Of course.
So are they doing okay?
I'll have you know, Paulie. Can I call you Paulie?
Sure.
Paulie, the girls are doing great. We have them over every weekend.
Over?
Yes, to our place.
Oh, you mean the old place on Elm Street? The townhouse we lived in?
No, not that old dump. We wouldn't actually live in that nightmare. We haven't had time to clean it up and flip it. Everybody's been so busy, it hasn't been a priority. We're gonna keep it for a while, but mostly for storage. And the girls, well, you know, it gives them a sense of belonging. They could always visit their stuff sometimes when they're home from college. But you know, they are getting a little too old for that now. You know, the dolls and everything.
I paid a fortune for those dolls.
Well, yeah, we talked about eBaying some of them.
What?
eBaying, you know, online selling. You take old junk and you make a buck from it. So we figured we could sell some of the girls' dolls, the really nice ones, to help pay for their lessons.
But my earnings from 40 years with the government are paying for their lessons, their college educations, you mean?
No, yeah, that's all covered. Thank you. But the girls have outside interest and all that costs money. So we're going to sell some of their kids' stuff to help pay for their lessons on the Cape.
What kind of lessons?
Shannon has gotten into equestrian, and Shelby, a real fine dabbler in finger paints.
Finger paints.
AFP, FOT.
AFP, FOT?
Adult finger paints for older teens. It's a brand new class at the Neighborhood Spiritual Center on the Cape. Paulie, it's evolutionary.
You voted Democrat, didn't you?
I didn't vote. I didn't have my paperwork in, but that should be okay after today.
What do you mean?
Well, you know Lily's in good standing, so it really shouldn't matter, even with that new administration.
Are you an illegal alien? I still have friends in government.
I'll have you know, I have lived in this country for 22 years.
Legally?
And I love it very much.
Legally?
And I love your wife very much.
Where did you meet my wife?
At the Cape. Bed and breakfast. I owned it.
Back in 2002?
Yes.
We were there. The girls were young.
Yes.
And all Lily spoke of was how good the Dutch pancakes were.
I am Dutch.
You are Dutch?
If I can't have you, I'm prepared to do a lot of dying inside, 'cause it's the only way I'm gonna make it through. If I don't have you, no one else will do. Just go and push me aside, 'cause it's the only way I'm gonna make it through.
We're back here on Messier Piece Theater, and that's a fun piece that stars my guest at this time, Bradley Rhodes, and our good friend Robert John Kennelly. And Brad, I had a fun time that day, man. And
I did too, and it's always rare for me to get a handshake for doing something that was just so insanely fun.
yeah. 4 men in a men's room. How much fun can you have, you know? But we had a good time.
And you know, given more time, we probably could have pushed that thing even further. But I have to say, your directing and Tim Labonte's camera work were incredible, because to imagine a small room like that.
Yeah.
And the sound levels were good, because most men's room like this one had serious echo issues, and it was all invisible.
Tim cleaned that up in post to always give my buddy when he does something like that, because I was a little overconfident because I had been working out, lifting weights, and I'm like, you know what, I can do the boom mic. I couldn't do the boom mic. For some reason, when you lift weights, that's not the same exercise as lifting a boom mic. There's got to be a special boom mic exercise, which I haven't learned yet in Muscle and Fitness.
There should be, and you'd be the first to go to Planet Fitness with one of those and let them wonder what you're doing.
Right, I'm doing the boom mic stretch.
I would pay to see that.
It would be good, but I was thinking it was going to be an easy thing to do the boom mic. It wasn't, and so Tim had to kind of, do something with the microphone onto the camera, and he really cleaned it up in post. And I'm really happy with that short. It gets a lot of laughs from people. The music, I think, is great too.
Music is incredibly good.
Yeah, it's fun. And we had a screening of that, I believe, on Cinco de Mayo. You came out all the way from Connecticut to Providence.
That's right. It was Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah, and we had a fun time. And I think the piece, I showed like 5 or 6 short films. 4 or 5 were my own, but, and this one
Nothing
popped.
wrong with that.
No, I mean, if you're going to rent the room, why not show your own stuff? But this thing popped the audience because it was kind of the most comedic short in a night of serio-comic towards dark stuff for the most part. So your piece, this one stood out in a fan-friendly type of way.
Well, it definitely has its own little niche.
Yeah. And what I like about it is we're trying to have a commentary on the fragile ego of the male species for men, and your character especially as the ex, and the ex who's showing up at his former spouse, the mother of his 2 beloved daughters, Shannon and Shelby, I believe, and you're showing up. And the question to me was always, and I never answered that question for you, maybe your own answer, was your character even invited to the wedding? Or did he just crash it?
The way I had left it was the wife says, well, if you want to be there, go ahead and show up. You don't need a formal invitation. Right. And so that's why he kind of shows up dressed the way he is. It's nothing fancy, no suit and tie. He's a sport coat and a sweatshirt.
With a Celtics.
With a Celtics emblem on it.
Yeah.
But I embraced that whole thing because as a guy, we always, think we're rough and tough and everything until a nerve is struck. And no one can strike those nerves better than a female or a new beau that enters into the picture.
And not only is he taking the woman from you, or he has, he's also become a father figure to your daughters, which really throws salt in that wound.
Oh yeah, he's commandeered them for certain.
Right. And he's selling the dolls that you've worked so hard. So I really love what you did with that piece. And so that brings us to what we're here for now, because I saw you at that Cinco de Mayo event, and I had been I was percolating this new project for a couple of days before that. And then I was meaning to talk to you about it, but I said, I saw him, and here he is, and I was like, well, let's talk about it now. So I remember just sending you the email with the script, I think that very night, right from my phone.
Right.
Because I had the script in my database of emails.
Right.
What was your thoughts when you read the script of that night, when you started to look at this thing and the character of Frank?
Well, it was fairly late at night that I saw it, so I was debating on whether to wait till morning, because I'm a quick read. I went through the script rapidly. Whether to send you a message that night or in the morning, and I said, nah, hell with it. I guess I was really subtle. I said, oh yeah, I'd love to do it, please, or I will come after you.
Yeah, right.
Would that be okay?
Yeah, right,
if I came after you? But no, I saw that one, and this one touched some chords in me also. I don't want to give away what it is, but it does have to deal with 3 people's past.
Right.
And as you get older, or maybe you have some of this going on in your life now, you will have certain times where you end up saying to yourself, either why did I do that, or I wished I could have done ...
Right.
but I can't really repair it now. So then you're stuck with the dilemma, well, do I keep fretting about this, or do I try to push it away? And for me, it's usually in your weaker moments or when you're most tired or whatever, certain things creep in because you're not, your brain is relaxed, say for the evening or whatever. But that struck a chord in me because all those things which we can't talk about.
Well, you know, it's okay if we talk about it a little bit because I want
to go on the fringe of it because I hate ruining.
No,
I hate ruining a story for anyone.
I'll approach it a little bit because on the prior episode I talked about the plot just a bit. But basically, there's 3 characters that are reunited after college. So they've gone on, they've led separate lives.
Right.
Then they come back and they're kind of reunited, and something traumatic happened when they were kids, when they were 18, your character maybe 21, 22,
yep.
23. And for all the characters, it's had a residual, but maybe for the victim character the most, and for your character, it was almost inspiring in a way to go in a different direction. Here you are reunited with these people, and you have to deal with this situation that's been buried. And that's where, to me, the movie, the short film, although it's a short, it's loaded because there's 2 elements. There's the past and there's the present. And they're bouncing off each other. And I want to get to the piece. With this piece, I want the actors and everyone to experience, we're in 2 times at once. We're living that nightmare that we had, you know, those years ago, but we're also different people now.
Yep.
And how do we broach that? And I think what I saw in your audition tape, and that was another funny thing, I was just going to give you this role. And then you wrote back, oh, want me to send you an audition tape? And then I started thinking, then I started to overthink it because I'm like, did he know that I'm just offering him the role? But I said, you know, let him do the audition tape because maybe he wants to do an audition tape. Maybe that's an important part of Brad's process is to kind of snowball this character. So let me see what he's got, because I really was just kind of offering you the role, not even asking you to do a tape,
right.
But you did a tape, and then I'm like, well, now I need a tape. So there you go.
It served me because I do those things anyway. I do them with monologues. I have a camera on standby all the time. I think I heard Kathy saying the same thing.
Yes.
But secondarily, I want it to be a good film, whether I'm in it or not. And I want the director to see exactly what he might be getting or what the range is, what can be done, not be done. Because I've run into too many film sets where somebody knew somebody and they had a great look.
Yeah.
They brought them in and then found out that the person had no control over voice or expression or anything. But it's the role has already been awarded. So now what do you do?
Yeah.
So I try my best not to have any director feel on the spot because it's almost like buyer's remorse.
Right.
You go out and you spend a ton of money on something like a car or whatever, and then the next day, go, why did I do that?
I got into some jams, a couple of years ago. Not even a couple, but more like 10 years ago. I was trying to shoehorn like sports people into a couple of comedies and even a couple of dramas. And I learned that, unfortunately, the sports people are great personalities. They're probably great for hosting events. They're great for what they do. but to try and shoehorn a sports personality into a film, not the best idea because A, they're mostly thinking about the schedule and the paycheck, maybe more so the schedule.
Right.
And then the second thing is the nuances, the subtleties of the director-actor relationship is kind of lost on them because they're coming from a different world where they're more appreciated for being a personality than a character.
Right.
You know?
Well, and then the exception to the rule is those sports figures who happen to have had some training.
Right.
And every now and then you'll see one that just becomes a natural. Like I look at Dwayne Johnson.
Oh, sure.
And I've seen some stuff I didn't think was that great, but then I've seen other stuff that I thought was absolutely hysterical.
Well,
and this is a guy that came from a pro wrestling background. Well, a whole
Right.
family
Right.
were wrestlers.
Yeah.
So, but that's I think it's a unique exception. So I understand.
Well, I
you know,
remember
what you're-
seeing him in Standing Tall, the remake, the reboot of Standing Tall.
Wasn't bad.
It was actually quite good. I thought he pulled it off. You know, for what that movie needed at that era, 2004, 2005. I thought he did great.
Yeah, absolutely.
I was thinking, as you were talking about the sports figures, Bob Uecker on Mr. Belvedere. I mean, like, he was actually quite funny.
Oh, he's a talent unto himself. I was totally shocked because first time I saw him, I didn't know what his background was.
Right.
And then once I found out, that just doubly blew me away.
Yeah, Mr. Baseball in the front row. What I was impressed, we're going to take a look at your audition tape now. So if you don't mind, we're going to share a little bit of this process. I see this. We're going into some uncharted territories here with this Messier Piece Theater. Because the whole idea is I want to bring the audience in as this show is released, when it's released, that we kind of did a soup to nuts examination of the process. And part of the process was you were given this script. I asked you to do some lines from it for a monologue, or you actually volunteered to. And then we kind of have this audition tape. So if you don't mind.
Oh, that'd be marvelous.
Yeah, so let's check out Bradley Rhodes auditioning for the role of Frank, audition tape right here on Messier Piece Theater.
Of rock.
Hey, nobody was complaining at the time. College. Best 6 years of my life, and I almost graduated. The city, great place to go to school. Great town for baseball. Great town for friendships.
But it's not the Reagan era anymore. And we're not kids. We're adults. And we all promised we'd be best friends forever. But sometimes a Saturday night promise is a Sunday morning regret.
Well, regrets, they can be painful and hinder you.
So what did Mr. Hands-On Experience ever end up doing?
You know, I've done a lot. I've traveled, met people.
I bet. Such details. Where did you go, Frank? Who did you meet?
I met God.
And lived to tell the tale?
God, you know, the Creator.
I don't know. What did he say? And who said he was a him?
He was a he. And he didn't say much.
Ah, yes, right, Frank. Why should he?
And he asked me to apologize for the things I said, things I did,
Apologize to who?
the people I hurt, the people I affected, and to make things right.
You didn't hurt anybody. Things happened and people moved on.
I didn't mean for that night. I didn't mean for that to happen.
But it did.
It did, didn't it? And I'm sorry.
Is there anything else, Frank?
I was hoping we could discuss it further.
So let's discuss it further. This audition tape, and kudos, I believe it's your lovely wife, Eunice Rhodes.
Yes.
Who's helping you. I guess, well, you know what question comes to mind is what time of day or night did you guys do the audition tape, you and your wife?
I think we did it the morning after, or I'm sorry, it would have been the afternoon
Yep.
after I had sent you the note that night. So
Okay.
In other words, I think it was 12 lines from a section that I thought would mean the most to you.
Yes.
That would still fit and give you like a miniature story within itself.
Right.
Makes the best monologues anyway. So, grabbed the script, carved out those pieces, gave it to her. Meanwhile, I spent a couple of hours cramming and studying them and deciding kind of what I wanted to do. And obviously, it's a monologue like that's not a performance piece, but it at least give a director an idea
Right.
of what you could do
Yes.
with it. So it was imperative to me because I felt so strongly about the script. That's why I basically just said, oh yeah, I want to do it, but here I want to audition that whole notion. So
Well, it's interesting because once you did the audition tape, then I was like, well, I guess I should get the other third actor to do an audition tape, which was Kathy, and she did a great one too. So it did work out for everybody because it did help me in a sense that I hadn't seen Kathy in quite some time. So be able to put everybody's face with the words and in my mind as the director to click in a movie, a foreshadowing of a movie, a premonition, so to speak. Like, are these three going to be able to make this happen? And I was like, yeah, they are. So I feel very good about it. And, you know, Kathy was talking about her process of having a little mini studio in her home of like a room that she goes to with the background and everything. Is that something that you've done yourself, or is it just kind of more of a as necessary we put something together for an audition tape?
Well, in a sense, it's pretty much the same way she described it. However, depending on what I'm doing or have to do, I'm setting up a green screen either in the living room or the family room or whatever. It takes about 5 minutes. I have a camera and sometimes a separate microphone and all of this set up. I can have it put together and lighting put together in about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And most of it is just because our house is a contemporary and the rooms are weird.
Okay, yeah.
So
yeah.
no room perfectly suits itself for a permanent setup.
Right.
But I come as close as you can, come as close as you can to that by having stands and green screens and stuff ready to go. And if for any actor out there, you can do that stuff fairly inexpensively.
Yeah. These days, it's never been a better time to be an independent actor and be able to make your audition tapes at home. For if you got a smartphone, you can do it. You know?
Well, it's a dream come true.
Yeah.
And I was talking to your assistant in the green room. We were talking about that stuff. There are many times where I'm auditioning for something that's coming out in New York City.
Right.
And I have done the 2.5-hour trip into New York. If a audition is going well, you're in and out of there in 5 minutes. So you're 2.5 hours in,
Right.
5-minute audition, 2.5 hours back. So you've traveled for 5 hours
Right.
to do a 5-minute audition, which I'm more than willing to do at any time.
Sure.
But what's wonderful about CDs, casting directors now seem to prefer self-tapes.
It saves them time too.
The only drawback
yeah.
is you don't get any corrections from them. They don't get to give you notes and see how you might change
Right.
the character or delivery or whatever based on their notes. So they don't know how directable you are.
That's a good point because
But-
there is a human director, or even with the casting director, directing the actor, helping them. And it's one of those, there's good and bad on either side of it.
Sure.
But, in this situation, having worked together just in the past, couple of months earlier, and also because the piece for me and editor Tim Labonte was fluid because we had to edit it. So we were watching you for months. You and Robert are done the day of the shoot. But, Tim and I, once we pick up the editing process, mostly him, but me as,
Right.
in there in the studio with him, we're seeing how you work, even with the takes we didn't use. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting process. How long have you been acting, Brad? When did you start with your career, your journey as an actor? Was it something you picked up along the way? Was it always like A1 priority since childhood? Where did that come into being?
started doing this seriously 7 years ago, and I retired myself from the corporate or business world 5 years ago.
Yep.
This all started, the desire to do it. I did it in high school and college, but the real desire started when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. We talked a little bit about this at one point, but we didn't take it to the full discussion. We've all played cowboys and Indians and things like that when we were kids. But when I played cowboys and Indians, we did multiple takes until it was right. But we didn't have a camera.
Right.
Yeah, I come from a day and age where it was 8mm cameras, and Dad wasn't going to let us use that. I wished he had.
Right.
But film wasn't cheap back then, relatively speaking. So we did it as though
You had
we
a camera.
were filming.
Wow.
And we could actually start to feel, okay, that's good. Now, we didn't use terms I wished I had known to just say, that's a wrap.
Right.
Or let's put this one in the can.
Yeah.
But we clearly wrote out scenes or planned them out and sectioned them off. And so we literally had stuff that you probably could have put into a small film or
Right.
really drag it out and put it into a feature film. And I wished I had some of that on camera.
I wish myself or
You would have died laughing.
Robert Rodriguez was there with a time capsule. Hop in there and film you guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome. So I think I remember the first time our paths crossed. There was a couple of things. I think I probably saw you down in Connecticut at the Actors Lab, I believe.
At the Actors Gym down
The
there.
Actors Gym, yeah.
There was that. And
Then-
we met at SECT
Yes.
Film, Southeast Connecticut Film.
It's amazing that group, although it's no longer with us, just meaning that the group had to disband, unfortunately. But it's amazing that there was some good relationships that came out of that group that still are vibrant and alive. And
Absolutely.
you know, sometimes you see these film organizations. Some of them stick for a while, some of them don't. Some of them have good times, bad times, controversies, a little bit of chaos, and sometimes they make work. And this one, I always liked going down a SECT film because it seemed like the work was paramount. It was like people are here to create projects and they're here to do some workshops.
Right.
I think I even negotiated or recommended Jim Germanic come and do a workshop, which actually did happen. So I mean, the SECT film was very open to people with ideas. Even people from Rhode Island. So that was good.
One thing that was near and dear to my heart and very important to me was one of the reasons SECT film worked as well as it did all rests on the shoulders of Alec Aston.
Yes.
He provided such an atmosphere and community spirit that you had no choice, really. You walk in the door and here are all these people smiling and maybe silently cheering you on.
Right.
And we became each other's supporters.
Yes.
So it was quite a tightly knit group.
And it was down in New London, and it was a good time. And I remember we crossed paths there. And then you actually, this is maybe a little lesson for actors, encouraging them to audition whenever possible, because you auditioned for a piece of mine. The piece hasn't even been made. This was a feature film that I had really put a lot of time into, The Chris and the Coffee Girl. Still hasn't been made. You know, I've moved on, in a sense, from that piece because of various circumstances. But at the time, we were looking for the stepfather role. And you were among a whole great turnout of guys that auditioned for the stepfather role. You know, we weren't going to use you for that character, but you did stand out as someone who brought something to the table. Your take on it, I think, was a little more dramatic. We needed more of a caricature, and you were doing like a serious type of thing.
That happens.
It's not a problem. It's just it's just one of those deals where, like, you know, we don't know what we want going into this process, but you know what I mean. And I remember thinking that Brad's a great guy, and he did a great read on this. And I took a photograph of you, my friend, another guy who I met that day, really cemented a friendship. Robert DeChico, a good friend who was a guy I pal around with all the time. And And a guy unfortunately passed away, Christopher Allen, who was a really well-liked actor. And I had that picture of you guys hanging out together. And and after Christopher passed away, I shared the photograph with his family online, and they were very happy to have it. But it's amazing how these situations, these little slices of your memory, slices of time, things change. I mean, the venue, the Brooklyn Coffee and Tea House, is now under new ownership.
Right.
We were just there a few months ago, but it's interesting how things morph. But the lesson for that story is because of that situation, another friend of mine, a friend of yours now, Jen DeLugos, and Tim Labonte were looking for an actor in the Connecticut area. I recommended you. Jen used you for Magic Land, which is a funny story. It's a story. It's like a web series about a amusement park that's kind of fallen on hard times. And I think you're like the owner / general manager.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about Magic Land. People can find that on YouTube.
You could not have given me a more delightful set of circumstances to portray the owner of a kind of rundown, small amusement park in Toledo, Ohio, who the character is the eternal optimist. He's quirky and strange, but he is convinced that he's going to take Disney down.
Right. Good luck.
that he's going to prevail over all of Walt Disney's kingdoms and theme parks and everything else. And then we go into this wild assortment of quirky, strange, hysterical characters.
Yes.
And between Jen DeLugos and co-writer Charlie Hatton, they provide these scripts. And then it's a matter of, during filming, doing your absolute best not to split at the seams or crack up while you're trying to portray these characters.
And Tim's kept me informed of the process, and you guys have gone to different locations of amusement parks, and I think even is either to shoot or for a festival of sorts, like the Niagara Falls area. So there's been a lot of work into that, and I think there is a YouTube channel for Magic Land.
Yes, there is.
Yeah, so people, I encourage you to cross-reference Brad's work in that. I do want to get back to the character Frank in that night just a little bit, but we do have one more clip to show, and this clip, I was bordering on not showing it, but I do want to show it because to me, you did something that's very difficult as an actor. Very famous Oscar-winning performance.
Yeah.
Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting, where he plays the therapist, kind of the rough around the edges therapist. Most people by now have seen the movie. And unfortunately, the character's wife has passed away in years previous. Right. Robin Williams played the guy who is the therapist to this genius but rough around the edges, tough guy Matt Damon played. I think Ben Affleck and Damon won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay, if I'm not mistaken. And this movie was a big success, I think 98, 99.
Yep.
Kind of an inspiration for me to even start writing movies, to be honest with you.
Right.
And here you are, I guess from an acting workshop or a class, doing a very, very, very difficult thing as an actor, taking on the role that is synonymous with somebody, is known for somebody. And someone who we've also lost. You know, unfortunately, Robin Williams, a big hero to me, a big hero to my buddy Chris Esper.
Me too.
Right, and now he's no longer with us. So here you are doing the near impossible, making a signature statement of your own, playing the character in a much different way. So I want to check that out.
Can I tell you one quick thing before you show that? I'll tell you why that came about.
Yes.
It wasn't for a submission. I keep the camera and all that stuff ready so that I can practice and rehearse. I was going through probably, I don't know, easily a 6-week dry spell where there's just nothing, no matter, it seems like these will happen no matter how many things you submit for.
Right.
If you even get an interest or somebody saying, oh, thanks for sending that, but we've gone with someone else who didn't hear anything. And I thought, well, I got to keep active. And I started going through and thinking, what really moved me over the last few years? And this crops up, and it's not a dynamic monologue from the standpoint of you not seeing a huge range. These are subtle
Right.
changes and things, but that's also important to an actor. So I started thinking about that and going, as painful as this may be to watch, I want to give it a whirl. So I went through, decided how and what I wanted to do, got the lines and everything. And I won't brag, but I surprised myself a little bit. But there was some useful stuff that happened during filming that, and I walked away 10 times better. But yeah, it is kind of different doing that.
Let's check it out. 'Cause
Okay.
I want to share this. Let's check out Bradley Rhodes' take on a monologue from the film Good Will Hunting right here on Messier Peace Theater.
I thought about what you said to me the other day about my painting. Stayed up half the night thinking about it. Then something occurred to me, and I fell into a deep, peaceful sleep. And I haven't thought about you since. You know what occurred to me? You're just a kid. You don't have the faintest idea of what you're talking about. So if I asked you about art, you'd probably give me the skinny on every art book ever written. Michelangelo? You know a lot about him. Life's work, political aspirations, him and the Pope, sexual orientation, the whole works, right? But I bet you can't tell me what it smells like in the Sistine Chapel. You've never actually stood there and looked up at that beautiful ceiling. If I asked you about women, you'd probably give me a syllabus of your personal favorites. You may have even been late a few times, but you can't tell me what it feels like to wake up next to a woman and feel truly happy. You're a tough kid. I ask you about war, you'd probably throw Shakespeare at me, right? Once more into the breach, dear friends. But you've never been near one. You've never held your friend's head in your lap, watching him gasp his last breath, looking to you for help. And if I ask you about love, you'd probably quote me a sonnet. But you've never looked at a woman and been totally vulnerable. Known someone could level you with her eyes. Feeling like God put an angel on earth just for you, who could rescue you from the depths of hell. And you wouldn't know about being her special angel, to have that love be there forever, through anything, through cancer. You wouldn't know about sitting up and sleeping in a hospital room for 2 months holding her hand, because the doctors could see in your eyes the term visiting hours doesn't apply to you. You don't know about real loss, because for that to occur you have to love something more than you love yourself. I doubt you've ever dared love anybody that much. I look at you. I don't see a confident, intelligent man. I see a cocky, scared, shitless kid. But you're a genius, Will. No one denies that. No one could possibly understand the depths of you. But you presume to know everything about me because you saw a painting of mine and you ripped my fucking life apart. You're an orphan, right? Do you think I would know the first thing about how difficult your life has been, who you are, because I read Oliver Twist? Does that encapsulate you? Personally, I don't give a shit about any of that. Because you know what? I can't learn anything from you I can't read in some fucking book. Unless you want to talk about you, who you are, and I'm fascinated, I'm in. But you don't want to do that, do you, sport? You're terrified of what you might say. Your move, Chief.
Hi, this is Mike Messier. We just saw Bradley Rhodes, an actor who's involved in my project here, Messier Peace Theater, doing a monologue from the very famous award-winning film Good Will Hunting. Of course, that monologue was famous by Robin Williams. And like I was saying to Brad, it's very impressive when an actor can take a monologue that's from a very established, very well-known piece, such as Good Will Hunting, and kind of put his own spin on it, as Brad did. As an actor, that's a huge challenge because you're always kind of, working in the shadows, so to speak, of what people have come to expect from a monologue they've seen over and over again. And normally, as an acting coach, I would discourage students of mine to take on that type of task because it's hard to win. But I think Brad did win in this situation because he was able to put those words and that inflection into his own way of doing things. So another reason why I wanted to work with Brad, as we saw in this episode of Messier Peace Theater, just worked with him most recently on So You're the Guy, a narrative film piece that I also wrote and directed. Now, I just want to give an overview for what you will be seeing on Messier Peace Theater in the episodes to come. Episode 4 will have all 3 of the actors, Kathy Lachey Berenson, Mary Beth Paul, and once again, Brad Rhodes, will all be in the studio together working on the piece, working on that night. And we'll be having, for the first time, we won't have any other previous rehearsals or table reads or anything, but the 3 actors and myself will be here with the script. If they have any suggestions for the scripts, hopefully they won't, maybe they will, but we'll iron that all out on episode 4. And so that'll be the kind of the table read. And that's part of this process of making a short film. Episode 5 will take that to the next level because as we're getting very closer to the end of this journey, episode 5 will be on their feet doing some actual blocking and rehearsal. Now, given the limitations of the studio that we have and the audios and so forth, it's a challenge to kind of make a dynamic presentation of a short film given certain limitations of what we have as far as equipment and so forth. But we're going to do our best, and we're going to work on this thing on episode 5, all 3 of the actors and myself. And finally, episode 6, it's go time. It's short filmmaking at its finest, limited time, limited resources, but that night we're going to shoot right here in the studio for episode 6 of Messier Peace Theater. So I think what we're trying to do is coming together, and hopefully you, the audience, will be along for the ride. The great guys here, Cody Picciotto and Kevin Vidinha here at, Vidinha at TV9, and all the wonderful people, Rita Roy assisting, and the great actors that I've mentioned, Kathy Lachey Berenson, Mary Beth Paul, and of course Bradley Rhodes, all coming together to present Messier Peace Theater that night. I'm Mike Messier of MikeMessier.com. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time on Messier Peace Theater as we take this journey together.